Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. Another episode going into news and prophecy where we link the things happening in the world to the Holy Scriptures, all right, to make sense of it all right? Everything that's happening in the world, all right, can be tied to biblical prophecy. And the Heavenly Father, right, the Most High God, Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, via his only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, has sent the Holy Spirit of understanding via the Comforter to the servants, the prophets in these latter days, to preach, to prophesy, okay, and to ultimately speak the end of Esau's world into existence, right, gathering the elect via the new song, all right, which entails condemnation to those who don't repent of our own nation, all right, condemnation to the heathen, starting with Esau, Edom, and those who are joined with him to try to establish this new world order, right, which is predicated upon Satanism, evil, and rebellion against the Most High God, Yahweh, through Yahweh Shai. So the powers that be are doing a lot, all right, some behind closed doors, some is blatantly in your face. As we know, their main plan, and one of their main plans, is to stop this word from going out, all right, is to cut off any form of disagreements with their plan, with the energy that they're bringing into the planet Earth, with the NWO, which the NWO, again, is predicated upon Satanism. Okay, the biblical Edomites are setting up Satan's kingdom on the earth, as you can see. All right, and it's becoming more and more of a thing, all right, for those who speak against, all right, these particular evils and atrocities and a lot of this wickedness. We see a clear agenda being pushed against those who stand for righteousness. Okay, as the scriptures told us, Revelation, the 12th chapter and the 17th verse, in the dragon, the revival of Rome, which is this beast system we're in, headed by Babylon the Great, NATO and the EU, okay, along with these different nations who were joined with them, okay. But in particular, Esau, Edom, the red dragon, was wroth with the woman. The woman, all right, is the elect, the faithful, all right, bride, the virgin, those who are faithful to their husband and understanding that we've been betrothed, okay, sticking to the righteous way, you know, repenting, you know, and faithful servants to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, all right, in a world that is based upon and predicated upon evil, rebellion, and wickedness. All right, here it is. You have this faithful woman, all right, who was bound not to make the same mistake as Eve. All right, sticking to the traditions, the ways, all right, even when it's not popular. As the scriptures say, they love not their lives unto the death. So the dragon was wroth with the woman, the church, the elect, the remnant, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So everything that you see happening, whether the Israelites are mentioned or not, all right, is a form of war being waged against, all right, those who speak the truth. Again, what does it say in Isaiah, the 59th chapter? Okay, Isaiah 59. I'll start at 13. In transgressing and lying against Yahweh, in departing away from our God, speaking oppression and revolt, conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood. And that's where 2/3 of our people are. Okay, and 2/3 of our people are going to be used to wage that war against the elect as well. And it's already happening. This is why we have to pay attention and be sober, be vigilant, because our adversary is Satan, you know, which Satan has children on the earth. The biblical Edomites who will come to do the bidding of Satan are the ones in rulership. And they have a lot of mischief being, you know, stirred up in the earth, causing a lot of division, you know, and inciting, you know, violence. Okay. And the blame as you can see, is becoming the Bible. Okay, those who stick to the traditions of the Bibles, who believe in God, who believe in, male and female, those people are becoming the enemies of the world. And that's all a ploy to really come at the prophets. Judgment is turned away backwards, and justice standeth afar off. For truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. Truth is fallen in the street. You see? And we're living in a time where the Lord has raised up the servants, the prophets, to make sense of things, to bring out the truth. The Lord has synonymously, also put the spirit on particular heathen, even other Edomites, to come up against what's going on. Because the more and more and the closer and closer they get to trying to fully establish their NWO, it's becoming more and more blatant. So people are coming out with things, you see, and it's becoming illegal. They're creating propaganda and narratives in the earth to make speaking the truth illegal. Okay? Truth faileth, and he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey. And Yahweh saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. And we're witnessing, all right, an earth ran by the biblical Edomites to where there is no judgment, all right, no justice. Wrong judgment proceeds forth day in and day out, like the book of Habakkuk says. Okay, let's get that real quick. Habakkuk, the first chapter, rather, and then we'll get into a few of these articles. Habakkuk. Okay, let's read this in the NLT 1 and 4. Well, let's start. Let's just turn this. Let's just read this in the NLT. Habakkuk 1 and 3. It says, "Must I forever see these evil deeds? Why must I watch all this misery? Wherever I look, I see destruction and violence. I am surrounded by people who love to argue and fight." That's the culture of this modern day Babylon. As Habakkuk was in, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. All right, we're in Babylon the Great, and it's the same mindset. The law has become paralyzed. The law, statutes, and commandments are paralyzed. Why? Because heathen are ruling. There is no justice in the courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted. All right, now let's get an example of what's happening in the planet Earth. As we this past week saw a particular shooter in Nashville who happened to be a female who wanted to be a male, transformer issue or deal, which, as you can see, all right, that's becoming a big point of controversy, because now, since this individual shot up, all right, these 3 children, all right, and these 3 adults, all right, again, look at the ages, and you can clearly see that this is what we call a psyop, okay, a means to create chaos and then bring in order. All right, and there's a lot of chaos going on in this world, but 999 666. All right, clearly this has Satan written all over it. But when you look at the response from the American media, okay, the response is this. All right, as I did a lesson on this already, but I wanted to bring out a few things here in this lesson as well, and bring out some things that are happening, throughout the world. All right, because, anti-Semitism, that's still a thing. Okay, trans, that's going to be a big thing. Okay, and it's all going to fall upon the Israelites. See, they're bringing these particular narratives and situations out to attack, what they say Christians, but, Christians aren't really a threat. The true threat are the true followers of Hamashiach Yahushai. All right, those who are on the highways and the byways, preaching the word in sincerity and truth, day in and day out, doing these videos, all right, and singing the new song. That's what they're trying to ban. They're trying to ban the new song, because remember, in Revelation, the 13th chapter, they have their agenda, and then in Revelation, the 14th chapter, the Heavenly Father puts the Spirit, all right, on the men of the Lord, the servants, the prophets, to sing the new song, which is anti NWO, anti everything that they're trying to promote. So that's the because that's how we're going to overcome this devil. See, again, what does it say in the book of Revelation, the 12th chapter? Okay. Revelation 12 and 11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. All right, because all of these accusations they're going to come with. Okay, if you don't have faith in that blood, okay, you're going to allow it to alter your beliefs. Okay, because through the blood of Yahweh Shai, all right, there is no charge going to be laid to the elect. See, and by the word of their testimony, through the blood of Yahweh Shai, all right, that gave access, all right, to all 12 tribes, okay, as he returned to the right-hand side to receive the Holy Spirit. All right, and now we're in the uttermost parts of the world preaching and prophesying with a testimony. All right, and out of the mouth of two witnesses, let's get that. Out of the mouth of two witnesses, which the Lord has given his testimony to those two witnesses, Judah and Ephraim, the tabernacle of David being reunited in these latter days. Okay, Deuteronomy 17 and 6, at the mouth of two witnesses or three witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death, but at the mouth of one witness he shall not be put to death. So the Heavenly Father has raised up the two witnesses, and then the third witness, I would say, are these people whom the Heavenly Father has put the Spirit on to bring out what's really happening, to go into things, to rebel against the system. Okay, and what you devils are doing in the earth is absolutely wicked and terrifying. Okay, so the Lord has raised up the two witnesses, as you see here in Revelation 11 and 3, and I will give power unto my two witnesses. The two witnesses represents Judah and Ephraim. See, and the elect amongst them being raised up in these latter days, preaching his word, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Okay, we don't care about this current world. We understand that we have no victory here. We understand that this system must be destroyed. But if you look at the narrative of, all right, this shooting, Nashville shooter, Audrey Hale's Christian parents couldn't accept that she was, all right, a transformer, sources claim. And now Christians are being blamed. Okay, and they're weaponizing these transformers, all right, to fight back, so to speak. Okay, to fight back against the Christian rhetoric, all right, which goes to the Bible, which the Bible tells you male and female created he them. You see, male and female created he them. Okay, so when you read this article, okay, this shooting is being blamed upon those who have an ideology against the transformer movement, against, you know, children being fed this agenda that they can be something other than what they were born to be, all right, and then growing up, okay, becoming depressed that they made the decisions they made, all right, and then all of the mental illness that comes with these agendas, okay? So they're not blaming mental illness and, you know, these agendas that are being forced upon these people, and how destroyed this world is, the food, you know, the psych meds, the polluted waters, on how people are going crazy in this situation where this individual shot up, you know, 6 people and injured others, all right, which are 3 adults and 3 children, all right, 33. Okay, we just had Trump be indicted on March 30th, all right, 33. You're seeing a lot of symbolism, all right, letting us know exactly where we are. And this is the number John, the Revelator, told us to look out for, the 666 system. Okay? So this individual went and shot up a Christian school, okay? But the blame, okay, is this. Uh, as the tragedy unfolded Monday morning at the Covenant School, all right, the wording is just, it just ceases to amaze you. More questions than answers were raised after yet another unthinkable loss of life targeted a new community. According to a source, both Hale's parents, Mother Norma, a church coordinator, and father were devoutly religious. Norma and Ronald allegedly could not accept their daughter identified as transformer and was a member of the alphabet community. Okay, now we already went into that. So let's listen to this real quick. Okay, this is your beloved White House. Okay, and look what they're saying.
And one of the things that we saw during the midterm elections is that people don't want their freedoms to be taken. They want us to fight for their freedoms. And so it is shameful, it is disturbing, and our hearts go out to the trans community as they are under attack right now.
So let's get this straight. They are under attack, but they are the ones who are committing the violence. So when one of them goes and shoots up a Christian school, the blame, all right, is on the Christians. The blame is upon those who believe in the Bible. Again, this is what Habakkuk was talking about. Habakkuk 1 and 4, the laws become paralyzed. There is no justice in the courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted. This is a clear example of that. After shooting up these people, okay, the blame doesn't go to them in the mental damage that's being done to these people. The blame goes, all right, to people who believe in the Bible. Because again, they're getting ready to come at the people who believe in the Bible. They're getting ready to come after the Israelites. And there's a lot of things happening, okay, in this world. Check this out. Transformer person calling for extreme violence in Tennessee. Okay, and they're being liberated to have this mindset by the powers that be, your government, the Biden administration. Okay, another form of chaos to bring order. Okay, and the order, as we're going to show you, is to shut down particular talking points, all right, in free speech. But that's prophetic. Okay, the trans community claims they are always being attacked, but are the ones calling for more violence. This is sick. Okay, so here it is. We're living in a time where these people have all of the rights. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. They can say whatever the hell they want to say. They can be as disrespectful, nasty, rude, and crazy as they want to be. Okay, and we're living in a world that uplifts this, with all of the hell going on in the earth, with all of the evil. Okay, the top group that the powers that be want to liberate are people who are infatuated with being another sex.
Trans people in Tennessee, it's time to fucking fight. Trans allies in Tennessee, it's time to fucking fight. Trans women, if they lock you up for identifying as a woman, fight, resist.
Now, if you were walking up the street, okay, and you saw this individual, who would you think it was? This is the confusion we're living amongst.
If they try to arrest you or have you arrested on a felony for existing, beat them.
And it has to be a Jake, right? It has to be a Jake, but this is what they're calling for. Yet the media is protecting them.
There is still a lot that we don't know about Monday's horrific and deadly mass shooting at a Nashville Christian school. But after police said the suspect was transgender, one thing is clear. Tennessee's already under siege transgender community is terrified. One advocate told NBC News, "We are already fearing for our lives. Now it's even worse." The right-wing moral panic over transgender people living their lives or seeking medical care or simply existing obviously predates the Nashville massacre. But some on the right are linking the tragedy to their raging nationwide crusade against transgender people in ways that are just dangerous and frankly evil. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the most embarrassing and shameful members of Congress, without any evidence whatsoever, claimed that transition hormones or medications for mental illness were a factor in the Tennessee shooting and that, quote, "everyone can stop blaming guns now." No, we won't. J.D. Vance, who sold his soul to Donald Trump for an Ohio Senate seat, shared his deep wisdom that, quote, if a trans shooter targeted a Christian school, there needs to be a lot of soul searching on the extreme left. Now, it is important to note that we do not know the shooter's motive, just a point of journalism. But in a particularly appalling act of hypocrisy, insurrection fist-bumping Senator Josh Hawley called for the Nashville shooting to be investigated as a hate crime against Christians. The same Josh Hawley, who was the only senator to vote against a bill to better prevent and investigate anti-Asian hate crimes in 2021. And last night, you know who? Fox's hate entertainment broadcaster Tucker Carlson of the I Hate Trump Passionately group text and Lies About Dominion joined in.
The trans movement is the mirror image of Christianity and therefore its natural enemy. The trans movement is targeting Christians, including with violence. Most Christian leaders in this country don't want to admit that. Admitting it might force them to take deeply unfashionable positions.
Joining me now is Jim Wallace, founding director of the Center on Faith and Justice at Georgetown University, and Charlotte Clymer, transgender activist and former press secretary for the Human Rights Campaign. Thank you both for being here. It's great to be with you. I'm going to start with you, Charlotte.
All propaganda, man, but we just check it out.
There are statistics that show that violence against transgender people was already high. 2.5 times more likely to be victims of violence than cisgender people. From 2017 to 2021, the number of trans people murdered more than doubled. 73% have been killed with a gun. And yet we're now seeing the moral panic over trans folks shifted onto this Nashville massacre.
That's right. It seems that the Republican Party, as usual, just can't seem to do basic math. Since January 1st, 2016, there have been 3,000.
So they're using the two horns like a lamb, the Democratic and Republican. All right. These ideologies are going to lead to them. All right. These clashes and this division for them to eventually bring forth legislation and laws. You're seeing it right before your eyes, man. Okay?
580 mass shootings in the United States based on the Gun Violence Archive. Less than 5 of those have been trans. So we're saying that 99.7% at least of the mass shooters have not been transgender. So if we're going to ban someone, maybe we should ban people who are not transgender from owning weapons, if that's a law.
So you see the oh, Lord.
Logic. I don't think that's what they're trying to say, is that they're not trying to fix the problem. They're trying to weaponize it and exploit these senseless dads, 3 9-year-olds who were brutally murdered just for their own bottom line in the ballot box. It's disgusting. It's hypocritical. And by the way, as a Christian, I find it offensive that they would leverage Christ's teaching.
As a Christian. You see this? This is a Christian.
In such a heinous way against innocent people.
Jim Wallace, I'm so glad that you were available to talk today, because there is this thing that's happening where it's kind of hard to avoid the sort of Christian element to it. There is a moral panic over LGBTQ folks in general, but trans folks in particular. Do you have any idea where that is coming from?
LGBTQ are initials that all stand for somebody who's beloved of God, made in the image of God. Let's be clear about that. This is all a distraction from hate. That's what they're using this for, distraction. Here's a moral fact. The leading cause of death now for our children and teenagers are guns. Yeah. Leading cause. And here's a moral conclusion from that moral fact. We're not protecting our children. Right. If it were websites or poison food or some website, we would take care of it. Yeah. But the Republican says, there's nothing we can do. This is needed for our freedom. So what he's saying there is, we will sacrifice our children for the sake of what he calls freedom. So let's ask, what kind of freedom is this? Yeah. For whom? From whom? This is a question he has to ask. You said worship in your opening segment there. There was an ancient god called Moloch. Leviticus talks about Moloch, who was a god that children were sacrificed to in flames. And the Bible is very tough on Moloch. Guns are our new Moloch.
Yes.
No.
Guns are the Moloch. We're sacrificing our children to Moloch when we could do easy, common sense things.
Yeah. You just triggered me to look. Jeff Charlotte tweeted a photo. I just showed this. This is a photo of a bullet at the center of a cross. That is sacrilege. That you have this worship of guns by people who are calling themselves Christians.
Well, white Christian nationalists are white nationalists, and Christian gets thrown in there. So they're white more than Christian. And I'm just saying, let's be Christian more than white. Yeah. So it is false worship. It is the worship of Moloch. And it is really, it's a heresy. Let's call it heresy. White Christian nationalism, which is behind all.
How about Planned Parenthood? How about the puberty blockers and this agenda that's being forced on children? Is that okay? But you can see the propaganda and the divide that they're using this situation to bring, attention to now Christians in the Bible, and eventually, it's going to come to the Israelites, man.
This is literally a biblical heresy.
And Charlotte, the thing is that there are real people that are being impacted. Your community is being impacted. And I wonder if there is a way to disentangle people's sort of not understanding of trans folks, right? I think the T is the toughest one in the alphabet soup, right? In the LGBTQ, the T gets skipped, right? Because people don't have an understanding. People, even if they're not mean or not angry, don't have an understanding. Is there a way to sort of disentangle people's lack of understanding from this? This moral panic is now getting drag shows banned, even though that isn't trans.
No, and I think children are only unsafe at drag shows when a shooter shows up to kill them.
That's right.
That's where.
This is too much. See, this place got to be destroyed. This is why this place is going to be destroyed. And the black woman, oh, Lord. Goodness gracious. Jake is always at the forefront of supporting this shit.
The threat is. I would challenge anyone just to get to know trans people. We are a vibrant, diverse community, as diverse as anyone else. I'm from the great state of Texas.
I tried to get to know you, but you didn't want to be who the hell you were. We're going to leave this where the hell it is, because this is too much. Enough is enough. So we're living in a spiritual Sodom in Egypt. Now, let's go to a few videos real quick. As a matter of fact, let's read this before we finish going any more on that. This is off of newspuncher.com, a real good site. Okay, Patriot Act for Internet. Okay, so there's a Patriot Act coming for the internet, but it's being hidden under a TikTok ban in China. Okay, but when you go into the bill, okay, anything that offends a particular group or a particular type of people who just, live their lives a particular way that's just not normal. If you have a talking point that offends them, okay, this new Patriot Act for the internet could make sure that you're taken off, silenced. Okay, and again, they use Trump to bring forth a lot of these rules, okay, these laws. TikTok ban bill directly includes terrifying laws targeting Americans. Again, the goal is to take away free speech. This is a part of the war that the dragon has against the woman. Okay? Again, the scriptures say this, right? Psalms 37 and 14. The wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be of upright conversation. All right? So upright conversation, holy conversation is set apart from the evils of this world, of the energy of this world, of where this world is going. Okay, it's evil and wicked what's going on in this world. So if you're of upright conversation, you're speaking against these things. All right, legislation is being passed. A sword is being drawn out, because the sword is more than just a physical weapon to bomb people and shoot people. The sword is also the tongue. The sword is also this legislation that they have about. Okay, they're doing a lot of wickedness, but they're hiding it under these agendas. Okay, it's crazy. I mean, you would think that these people would be the ones targeted and after shooting up 6 people and including children, you would think it would be a big thing against them. But no, the offense is the Bible. Upright conversation is the offense. The fact that these parents didn't want their 28-year-old child living in their house, living in this manner, is the source of why she shot up the school. Complete madness, man. So let's get into this bill, all right? It says Congress is attempting to quietly, deceitfully sneak in a raft of authoritarian news laws targeting ordinary Americans in fine print of the TikTok ban bill. All right, because TikTok, which I believe was created by China, has been used to dumb down America and implement all sorts of, it was an act of war, all right, a way to weaken your enemy, and it worked. People have gotten significantly stupid. You have all of these challenges. You have all of this evil. Again, order out of chaos. Okay, it's brought a lot of chaos. Now we need order. See, and the order is going to involve taking away your rights. See, but it's going to be hidden under what? TikTok ban bill. We got to get control of this mess that has been made caused by TikTok. Oh, really? All right. While telling the public the bill is about China. Since then, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi famously admitted we have to pass the health care bill so you can find out what's in it. I've harbored doubts about any law passed by our politicians. So there's a wicked rulership, man. And they're all doing the bidding of the elite to bring forth what they want. And they want an NWO. Give me 1 second. All right. It says, unfortunately, we have seen time and time again that laws passed by politicians and unintended or even intentional consequences. For instance, the Vid Relief Act fund failed to reach their intended receipts, and the term pork is used to joke about the questionable use of public funds. Let's face it, new laws rarely achieve their stated goals. Okay. Enter the TikTok ban bill, known as the Restrict Act. They're going to restrict, okay, what you say, all right, and what you have access to, all right, and gain full control of the internet. They're gaining full control of all of the resources in the earth, okay, and they're losing control of the narrative. Now they want control of the narrative again. They want to be able to silence. They don't want people to be able to look and see another opinion. See, limit. To restrict is to limit, to keep under control. Okay? To regulate, control, moderate, to cut down. Because we're living in a time where the truth is out there. Okay? Corruption is being overcome, and the truth, which has been so long without fruit, is being declared. Okay? So again, Revelation 13 versus Revelation 14 chapter. There are 2 TikTok ban bills. The White House supports the Restrict Act. So do both Democrats and Republicans. Okay. Cars will be banned by 2030. It says the Restrict Act has authoritarianism written all over it. Okay. We all know the backstory. TikTok is owned by the Chinese-backed ByteDance company. There are concerns, some very legitimate, that China is stockpiling Americans' data and grabbing all sorts of information that they can utilize later. Okay, and at the same time, dumb down their enemy, which is America. Okay, because China is going to go roll with Russia. Okay, and we know China has spoken against the evils of the West and the agendas they push. Russia does. A lot of countries are. There's an evil eye towards the West right now. It says congressional hearings last week grilled TikTok CEO, and it seems that they are hell-bent on banning the app and more. Side note, remember when Parler was banned in the App Store and Google Store? Why doesn't big tech do that here if TikTok is such a threat? All right, because again, it's propaganda. The Restrict Act law will grant the White House through the Commerce Department the ability to go after anyone in in any company that they deem a security risk. The invoked mitigation powers are far-reaching, including the ability for Commerce Department to ban not just social media apps, but also gaming applications and payment applications. These devils, boy. Yes, they can ban video games and video game companies. Yes, payment applications mean the Department of Commerce, through the TikTok ban bill, may have the power to go after and shut down your cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, because they're going to want you to come up under one new currency. They don't want options. Okay? And we know that they're talking about a infodemic. There's particular information that's being spread that is so dangerous. Okay, it can call for a means of shutting down the internet. Okay, the infodemic. Let's just look it up real quick. Infodemic. Let's just read up a little bit. It says an infodemic is a rapid and far-reaching spread of both accurate and inaccurate information about certain issues. All right. The word is a portmanteau of information. All right. An epidemic, and it is used as a metaphor to describe how misinformation and disinformation can spread like a virus from person to person and affect people like a disease. So they're saying particular talking points can be looked at as a disease and must be shut down. Okay, so if an outbreak comes, Okay, the particular talking points can be deemed what? All right, worthy of being jailed. All right, because you're spreading disease. It's an infodemic. Right? All right. It says the 4 pillars of how to fight. All right, misinformation. So you can, look more up on that, but there's a such thing as an infodemic. And who's at the forefront of bringing that out? All right, the people who were telling you during 2020, 2021, you had to take some juice. These people, you see it right there. You can see it's these people. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what would the devil deem, all right, inaccurate information? Anything that exposes him. And right now, we're living in a time where everywhere you look on the internet, he's being exposed. Okay? So what they're doing is, bringing about these crises and things like that, all right, to slowly but surely gain control of how information is spread and what? Outlaw talking points. This is what all of this is about. And again, it all comes at the Bible at the end of the day. Okay? It says the bill to ban TikTok is absolutely terrifying. It gives the government ability to go after anyone they deem as a national security risk, at which point they can access everything from their computer to video, games to their ring light. This is a patriot act of the internet. Okay? It says the bill continually refers to the ability to ban past, present, and future, emphasis added, transactions. Okay? A transaction, as the Libertarian Party caucus explains, is pretty much anything. Notice how it goes from covered entities, which is based on foreign and peculiar worded non-evasion, Section C of the bill, which allows much more authority. Ladies and gentlemen, you just gave up your individual sovereignty to an unelected Department of Commerce. Okay? People on Twitter wanting to ban TikTok, but actually getting tricked into banning Bitcoin by progressives would be a very on brand for conservatives. Unfortunately, the people in power recognize the Constitution for what it is, paper with no power or authority at all. They take what they want with no regard for it. Your rights, okay? You don't have any rights, okay? And they're doing all of this propaganda is being brought forth to make sure, okay? It's time the people recognize the same and refuse to recognize these infringements of their natural rights. Again, you won't have any rights. All right, Revelation, the 13th chapter, told you that what? And I beheld another beast, the 11th verse, come up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, Democratic and Republican, and he spake as a dragon. This is speaking of America, and they're at the time now where they're getting ready to speak as a dragon, which means draconian laws, draconian measures. Okay, harsh rules of, harsh methods of, harsh laws, harsh rules, harsh consequences for going up against their NWO. Now, I want to look at a little bit of this video, all right, off of Breaking Points. All right, and I sped it up a little bit so we can get through some of it, but and we'll check out a few other videos, get some scriptures as well.
Ryan, this is fairly big news that I haven't seen basically any coverage from the corporate media of. And I looked actually when the Restrict Act, which is being supported, sponsored by Mark Warner, has a very bipartisan coalition behind it, 11 Democrats, 11 Republicans. It is aimed at TikTok. It does not say the word TikTok once in the bill, which is always a giant red flag here in Washington. When a bill that is aimed at doing one thing doesn't mention it, that's always a sign that the language is probably wildly overly broad. Some screenshots from the bill started circulating on Twitter. And I think this is where a lot of people in the media, myself included, turned and paid attention to the Restrict Act after Mark Warner was promoting it on Face the Nation legislation Sunday, if you dig into the text of this bill, it is outrageously broad. And I think it was Greg Price on Twitter who said this is the Patriot Act for the internet. A couple of things. This is Michael Spalek. He says there's a reason the White House supports this legislation. They don't want to ban TikTok. The bill gives them a gigantic loophole to avoid doing so. The Warner-Thune Restrict Act is not a TikTok bill. If this thing passes, the chances of a TikTok ban or forced divestment grow incredibly small. Why? The bill slow walks actions against transactions that are under review right now.
Right.
So if anything, when we saw that like bipartisan display of animosity towards TikTok.
And when we say the Patriot Act, this is the Patriot Act of the internet. Remember the Patriot Act, I believe in 2001, all right, it was basically, it gave law enforcement and the powers that be more powers to spy on people, okay, and to infringe on your personal rights, you know, track you, trace you, all to prevent terrorist acts, okay? And Obama reinforced that, we know that, okay? And now, ultimately, anybody can be deemed a terrorist based upon talking points, religion, this, that, okay? So basically, they're able to, track, trace, watch you based upon this law, all right? Now they're doing this to the internet, which they've been doing it, all right? But they're going to be able to what? Shut you down, bring forth legislation to have you jailed, to shut down, transactions and this and that, all right, based upon what's on the internet, okay? So let's keep going.
Which, by the way, is like 5 years overdue, in Congress last week. And, people who are maybe on the anti-establishment side started to get nervous, rightfully so. This is why.
And we already have CFIUS, which is what they're sort of referring to. So CFIUS is a law that says that if there's some type of infrastructure that is critical to the United States that is being taken over by a foreign government, then that can't just be a normal business transaction. It has to get approved by this CFIUS board. I think one example was I think the UAE back in 2006 tried to buy a bunch of ports. And this was right after, a couple years after 9/11. And the country was like, you know what, we don't want to sell our ports to a foreign government. And whether, no offense to UAE, but just in general, we'd like to keep control of that. As what's Donald Trump's line? You don't have a country.
Yeah.
If somebody else controls your ports, like that, you can imagine how that could become problematic at some point.
Yes.
And so that's why there has to be these CFIUS reviews. And so if there is a case the government can make that TikTok is encroaching on some type of critical infrastructure, whether social media, the narrative control is basically what this is coming down to, then put it before the CFIUS review and beat it there. Like in other words,
which is where it is.
Right. You are.
And there are some truths on TikTok as well. That is pretty much got these devils, on the back foot. But let's just keep listening.
Which is where it is, and it frankly should be. And you already have the laws in the book. So then why this Resist Act? Why this overly broad piece of legislation that they're pushing forward? And the people who are circulating these screenshots on Twitter might seem paranoid, but if you read the law, they're right.
Yes.
Like this, it is extremely overbroad. It even mentions the Patriot Act. It's using Patriot Act language in the
it combines powers
definitions.
And remember, the Patriot Act came after 9/11. Okay, again, order came out of chaos. Okay, this is nothing different.
Right, it combines powers with Patriot Act. It references parts of the Patriot Act that would apply in this case to the entities they're describing.
And some of it is just funny, jingoistic American imperialism. I think we have this first part up here where it says, where they define foreign adversary, it means any foreign government or regime determined by the Secretary pursuant to Sections 3 and 5 to have engaged in a long-term pattern or serious instances of conduct significantly adverse to the national security of the United States or the security and safety of United States persons. So all the Secretary would have to do is say a country fits this definition, and then if that country has any controlling share, any share at all in the company, that it would then be under the kind of unilateral authority of the Secretary. And then they list some, just in case you're curious about who they are. These ones are definitely included. China, Cuba, get out of here. Cuba, are you serious? The Cuban apps, come on. Iran, of course, North Korea, Russia, and Venezuela, but they specify Venezuela under the regime of Nicolas Maduro. So Venezuela, as long as they get rid of
because we don't recognize technological communications methods in order to make these determinations, evaluations as they're referred to in the bill. It's just incredibly broad. No surprise that you have a bipartisan coalition of Mark Warner, John Thune, all kinds of establishment Republicans and Democrats are ready to have 21 sponsors. Is a fairly big deal. Josh Hawley has a clean TikTok ban on the table, and he has for a while. It is just a ban of TikTok. Of course, that's not what they want to do when they say they want to ban TikTok. They want to expand the surveillance powers of the federal government, and that is exactly what they put in writing here.
And when reading these types of bills, it's always useful to go to the very end of a section, because there'll be specific, and then the very last one will be like, and anything else we didn't cover.
Right, yeah.
They have a good example of this one here, Section 3A, subsection 2 here, that a company that, quote, otherwise poses an undue or unacceptable risk to the national security of the United States or the safety of United States persons. So all of these things, but then also anything that we say is unacceptable. Like literally, if it's unacceptable, well, what's something that's not acceptable? Well, it's something that's unacceptable. So
why do you ask?
It's right there in the law. My T-shirt is explaining. I don't understand why it's raising so many questions. And I think this goes to the broader point that the debate has been held publicly around data security and privacy, which, as somebody who has covered data security and privacy,
peace and safety, that's what everything that you see happening. All right, and all the agendas are peace and safety are at the forefront of it to make the people to believe that it's good for them. But again, the NWO is predicated upon a mass enslavement, a digital enslavement.
For 15 years now, it makes a mockery of the way that Congress thinks about data security and privacy. They have no interest for them. I mean, there is a bipartisan coalition that we've talked about on the show before that does really good work in trying to push back against the national security state when it comes to this. But in general, the majority of Congress, it does not care about privacy, does not care about that type of thing.
They barely understand it.
And so to have them now saying that they're so concerned about your data that they're going to ban TikTok just doesn't pass the sniff test. What it really is about, and I think Crystal's talked about this too, is that they don't like the fact that a China-backed social media company can control the narrative inside the United States. I think they should just have that debate.
Yeah,
because I think you can actually make a case like, okay, you know what? Maybe that isn't good. And a lot of other countries would say, you know what, we don't want, if Voice of America, for instance, was like as dominant in China as TikTok is in the United States.
Unthinkable.
China would be like, no.
What are you doing?
And in fact, lots of countries did ban Voice of America because we're sending in American propaganda, and then we would try to figure out ways to get it in anyway. The propaganda war between countries has been basically part of kind of geopolitics going back to the medieval ages. Ever since you had a printing press, you had people slipping propaganda in behind enemy lines. So have that argument rather than trying to pretend all of a sudden you care about privacy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And the House Financial Services Committee put out a tweet where they said the Restrict Act is using TikTok as a smokescreen for the largest expansion of executive power since the IEEPA. The U.S. can't beat China by becoming more like the Chinese Communist Party, which is to say expanding surveillance powers massively over people. I think that's fairly well put. And it signals to me, honestly, that the Restrict Act has become, in short time, fairly toxic. I expect you'll see people actually revoke their support for the bill. I don't think it'll get much more support since it's gotten this level of public attention, at least on the right. I have, again, really not seen mainstream.
With the right crisis, they will be able to pass it. Okay? Let's check this out.
Every day, more than 2 billion people use a social media app called TikTok. Many of them are young people under the age of 24. If you had kids, you probably know already how TikTok works. TikTok lets users upload short videos. Usually they're under 30 seconds. What's interesting is that the content of these videos varies a lot depending upon what country you're in. If you're in China, where TikTok is headquartered, you tend to get more educational content. But if you live in this country, you get an awful lot of filth and propaganda tailored for kids. We're not guessing about this. We ran an experiment to prove it last summer. Watch. The TikTok that Chinese residents, children in China, get to see is very different from the one your kids are looking at here. Now, in China, where TikTok is known under a different name, videos like these are very common. Watch.
Legends never die. They become a part of you.
You know what American kids, your kids, are watching on TikTok? Stuff like this. Well, that's kind of weird. Can you see what's going on here? Well, China does. They run TikTok. And China knows if you want a productive society that extends beyond, say, next week, you teach your kids about hard work and creativity and personal responsibility, respect for authority. But if you want to destroy a society, you funnel a ton of garbage to kids about gender ideology and twerking. As the account Libs of TikTok has documented extensively, that's exactly what TikTok is doing here. There's a whole genre of videos of teachers boasting about indoctrinating kids.
I have had multiple students come out to me, not just with their sexuality, but also with their gender identity. It's one of the reasons I think it's so important to be out and loud and proud.
I teach my elementary school students about gender identity. Some people are girls, some are boys, some are both, some are neither.
I might tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he looks around and he goes, oh, that one?
So it goes without saying that net, as they say, TikTok is not a positive influence on American society. And right now, in response to criticism of TikTok, China's government and the company itself are doing the same thing they did when they responded to allegations of a lab leak in Wuhan. They're saying anyone who raises questions is a racist. And they're doing that everywhere across the media. And they can because a lot of the news that you consume is paid for by TikTok. Politico, a completely ideologically corrupt organization in Northern Virginia, has a so-called playbook that is sponsored by TikTok every other week. CNN, meanwhile, just put its tech reporter on the air to inform you that criticizing TikTok opens up Chinese Americans to, quote, hate and violence. If you criticize TikTok, you're killing Asian people. So confronted with all this, you might support efforts in the Congress right now to ban TikTok altogether. And a lot of people do. not just on the right, but also on the left, which is kind of interesting. This is one of those weird moments where there appears to be some kind of bipartisan consensus. And that alone might want to make you pause for a second. If everyone in power is saying the same thing, is it really a good idea? Well, let's take a closer look. And again, this is not a defense of TikTok, merely an acknowledgement of what's actually happening in Washington right now. So one of the bills that would ban TikTok is being pushed, as we said, by senators in both parties. It's called the Restrict Act. Mark Warner of Virginia and John Thune of South Dakota, Democrat and Republican, introduced this legislation. Now, the bill is ostensibly about protecting American national security and ending, quote, foreign adversaries from interfering in our elections through apps like TikTok. Because, of course, election interference by Twitter and Facebook is no problem at all. But election interference from TikTok is totally unacceptable. Okay. But in reality, and you should know this if you're opposed to TikTok, as we are, this bill isn't really about banning TikTok. It's never about what they say it is. Instead, this bill would give enormous and terrifying new powers to the federal government to punish American citizens and regulate how they communicate with one another. For example, the bill would regulate, quote, certain transactions between persons in the United States and foreign adversaries. Now, what's a foreign adversary and who gets to decide? Oh, well, the Secretary of Commerce and the DNI, not the Congress, get to decide what foreign adversaries are. Well, that ought to trip a switch in your brain. And then the transactions with foreign adversaries would include, quote, any acquisition, importation, transfer, installation, dealing in, or use of any information and communications technology product or service, including ongoing activities such as mandated services, data transmission, software updates, repairs, or the provision of data hosting services. Well, that's pretty broad. Under this bill, if you engage in any of that with a so-called foreign adversary, as determined by, in this case, the Biden administration, that would allow the Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, and the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, to decide whether you're acting in the, quote, interest of a foreign adversary. Again, that's another term that the executive branch, the Secretary of Commerce, gets to define without the interference of Congress. So if the Biden administration decides that you're doing this, then the Secretary of Commerce can then enforce, quote, any mitigation measure to address any risk arising from any covered transaction with any person or with respect to any property subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. These covered transactions can involve, quote, current, past, or potential future transactions. And the mitigation measures include, but are not limited to, throwing American citizens in prison for 20 years. Think about that for a minute. So you would be allowing the executive branch, the Biden administration, to regulate speech on the internet. And if you are somehow involved with a, quote, foreign adversary, let's say you oppose the war against Russia, you go to prison for 20 years.
See that? I wanted you to hear that. Okay? Isaiah 29:20, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. This is nothing more than a snare. Okay, so particular talking points, all right, will bring about legislation to have you jailed in the future. Okay, as they come harder and harder down with their draconian measures to bring in their NWO. All right, because you can't have rights in order for the NWO to work. Okay, and people like us, they plan on executing. See, this is why the Lord is speeding things up. All right, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Who's him that reproveth in the gate is the prophets. Okay, therefore thus said the Lord, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob shall now not be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. Meaning we wouldn't be in that docile state. Again, the righteous man is standing in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him. This is the reason why they're bringing about these kind of bills and laws. Okay? It says, but when he seeth his children, the work of mine hands in the midst of him, they shall sanctify my name and sanctify the Holy One of Jacob. All right, and shall fear the God of Israel. And they that erred in spirit shall come to understanding. And that's something this world never wanted, especially here in Babylon. We erred in spirit and were judged, but now we're coming to the understanding. All right, and they that murmured shall learn doctrine. And that's speaking of the elect, the Israelites. Okay, let's listen to a little bit more.
So this isn't about banning TikTok. This is about introducing flat-out totalitarianism into our system. Now, just because TikTok is so unappealing, because it's a creepy, low-IQ Chinese plot designed to make our kids trans, and it is, that does not mean that the people trying to ban TikTok have your interests in mind. Oh, it definitely doesn't, or America's. Keep in mind, these are exactly the same people who drained our strategic petroleum reserve and, in fact, promote China at every...
Because, again, they could just ban it from being in the App Store. They can ban it from, being on phone. They have the power to do that. But, no, this is the way they want to go about it.
Now they're telling you they're against China. They're not. This is not an effort to push back against China. It's part of a strategy to make America much more like China, with the government in charge of what you read and see, and with terrifying punitive powers at their fingertips. And we've seen this before from the national security state again and again. Confronted with a foreign adversary, for example, after 9/11, the federal government uses the opportunity to expand their police powers over the American population. And they do it under false pretexts, and they do it quickly by whipping people into a panic. Usually that's rooted in some truth. TikTok is bad, sure. Al-Qaeda was terrible, of course. But these measures are not aimed at stopping the foreign threat, they're aimed at controlling the American population. And they rush it through. And they do it so quickly that no one ever explains how exactly this has preserved American national security. Now, according to Cindy Cortez, we really quote her, Congress has not even been briefed on any of this. Watch.
Usually when the United States is proposing a very major move that has something to do with significant risk to national security, one of the first things that happens is that Congress receives a classified briefing. And I can tell you that Congress has not received a classified briefing around the allegations of national security risks regarding TikTok. So why would we be proposing a ban regarding such a significant issue without being included on this at all? It just doesn't feel right.
Okay, so again, in case you think we've gone crazy and we're defending Sandy Cortez, we should point out that she is a tool of the national security state. She's out promoting a war against Russia. Anyone who asks questions is an ally of Putin. And she's probably acting for motives that we find, well, abhorrent. But the question that she raises is real, and we want to be honest enough to say that. This may be one of those times in our common in Washington where the solution has nothing to do with the problem, and in fact degrades our free country and makes it something unrecognizable.
Well, you won't have any freedom. That's what this is all about, okay? Is Google aiding terror, okay? U.S. Supreme Court to hear vital challenge to legal protection enjoyed by tech platforms. Family of Nohemi Gonzalez, who was killed by ISIS in Paris in 2015, which, the Islamic extremists will be tied to the Hebrew Israelite movement, okay, has sued Google in the Gonzalez versus Google. Separately, SCOTUS will hear the Twitter versus Tamne, in which the use of a anti-terror law is in question, all right, of a U.S. anti-terror law. Okay, and they had this hearing, all right, so be on the lookout for what's going to come of this, all right. The case was originally filed by the father of Nohemi Gonzalez, a 23-year-old student at Cal State University who lost her life in the terrorist attacks in Paris in 2015, which were claimed by the Islamic State ISIS, okay? And again, the likes of Vocab Malone love, okay? He doesn't do it as much since we called him out, but they love to try to tie the Hebrew Israelites to ISIS. Again, if you look at where all of this is going, okay? Online extremist, okay? To being able to, get control of the internet due to threat online. People are being weaponized by online extremists. All right, so Google, all right, and other platforms like Twitter and Facebook were sued by this family, all right, for dissemination of extremist content such as ISIS recruitment videos and messages from terrorist leaders, which were used to radicalize the users into becoming terrorists. So they're saying like platforms like Google, okay, we know YouTube is going to eventually be mentioned as a part of that. YouTube and Google go hand in hand, all right, or responsible for allowing talking points on the internet, all right, that are radicalizing people and turning them into terrorists. That will be used against the Hebrew Israelites, man. All right, let's check this out.
I've been waiting for this. Boy, I've really been waiting for this. Since we had the Twitter files.
Yeah.
I said, forget the Twitter files. Like, that was interesting enough. And there's still a lot we want to know about the Twitter files. Fauci, etc.
See, YouTube CEO, that woman quit. This was some months ago. All right. As feds get ready to drop the hammer on censorship. Okay.
I really want to see the Google files. I really want to see the YouTube files.
Yeah, I also would like to see the Facebook files.
The Facebook files too, but because it hit us personally, right? We were blocked, I think 3 or 4 times over a variety of subject matters here, covering both the Ukraine war and what's going on with the Pfizer and vaccines and so forth. So we were blocked, banned, shut off, cut down a number of times, and that's just sort of the superficial stuff. I would really love to know how it influenced elections, what they were doing to suppress voices, conservative voices. So, we have now the CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, announcing that she is stepping down. Suddenly,
yes,
as the CEO of YouTube.
And she says she's using this focus on my family bit,
of course.
Focus on my health and my personal projects, which is super nice for her. But I do think she may have to testify before the House Judiciary Committee to comply with recent subpoenas about censorship and collaboration. Here is a statement from the House Judiciary Chairman, Jim Jordan, who subpoenaed the executives of Alphabet, which includes Google and YouTube, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and Microsoft for documents related to communications with the federal government's reported collusion with big tech to suppress free speech. Now, they don't specifically give a reason, and it's funny because I'm like, oh, is this one about COVID, or is this one about, lockdowns, or is this one about, war censorship, or like it literally could be about a number of things these days, but they just want it all. He set a deadline of March 23rd for these companies to hand over documents related to various topics. And they should know, because we saw recently with testimonies from former Twitter employees that leaving a company does not get one off the hook. All 4 of these are former Twitter execs, and they still had to testify about their decisions. Now, under, how do we say your name again? You say Wojcicki?
I think it's Wojcicki.
So you're seeing these social media platforms are so-called going to be under fire, okay? You know, and they were used by the powers that be, all right, to cut off particular talking points, to take down particular information, and so forth, all right? But with propaganda, they're going to be caused to ramp it up, all right? But they got exposed, too. So there's a lot going on with this devil. Like, it's like a nonstop plethora of, events happening, all right? But what it's all going to entail, and at the end of the day, it's all going to be used, all right, to point the finger that the internet needs to be regulated, man.
Wojcicki? Susan Wojcicki.
Okay.
Yeah.
YouTube has been one of the strictest platforms for censorship. They prohibited creators from saying, we've been suspended for saying that very thing about how vaccinated people still can contract COVID. And we had a 2-week ban, meaning we couldn't use our channel, we couldn't comment on our channel, we couldn't let you know. And then we had the same punishment again because we had covered Pfizer's own data about vaccinations. We just let you know what they had said. That wasn't a violation of any of the rules that we just showed you. But we read their results, and they punished us for that. We also have been punished for saying things that were negative about Ukraine, because YouTube also prevents videos from saying that the army in Ukraine fires on civilians, which we know to be true. And our show has been punished for saying those things regularly.
They're going to see a flood of lawsuits, YouTube, with all of our First Amendment infringement. I wonder it'd be interesting to see if they can pull that off or not.
Yeah. Now,
I found it laughable that in an article that I read, they're suggesting that it's potentially because of revenue loss due to Facebook and TikTok. Like Facebook is even going to potentially take views away from YouTube. Are you kidding me? Like, that is for sure not the case. This has to be about, the
she knows
censorship.
Well, she's never given a satisfactory answer to why YouTube makes certain decisions. Why is it aligned with the Ukrainian war? Why is it aligned with even the more nefarious factions inside of the Ukrainian army? Why? Why does it want war? Maybe we'll get some of those out of the new CEO, because she named YouTube's chief product officer, Neil Mohan, to replace her. I don't know if we're going to, get that much out of this guy, because he's big on the misinformation word. You know how uncomfortable I am with that word. Last summer, he testified before Congress and attended a White House summit where he unveiled a new content moderation policy at YouTube. Here's his tweets about it. Now, he's using the idea of violent extremism. Like, we're not going to allow that to happen on YouTube.
You hear that? We're committed to combating violent extremism. And we shared with the White House, we'll update our policies this year to prohibit content glorifying violence, recruiting, and fundraising for extremist groups, because all of a sudden, extremists, all right, are gathering, all of this money, extremist groups are raising money and being weaponized. Extremists crowdfunded more than 6.2 million online in recent years. All right, ADL reports. All right, between 2016 and 2022, extremist groups raised more than 6.2 million on 10 crowdfunding sites, including GoFundMe, Give Send Go, per a new report from the Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism. The ADL tracked campaigns with hateful rhetoric, including anti-Semitism, white supremacy, and they always like to throw that in there, okay, because they're going to throw what they call black supremacist in there as well. QAnon, conspiracies, and anti-alphabet extremism, as well as rhetoric from the anti-Semitic sects of Black Hebrew Israelites. The 324 campaigns generated at least $6.2 million. Okay? So check that out, okay? But let's go back here.
And so we shared with the White House our policies to prohibit content glorifying violence or recruiting and fundraising for extremist groups, even when the content isn't affiliated with designated terrorist organizations. So they're going to seek that out. We're also launching a media literacy campaign to help viewers, particularly younger ones, better identify different manipulation tactics to spread misinformation. So, you know, using that misinformation word in tandem with extremism shows you that, like, that gives them a license to reach pretty far and deep for what they don't like. See the story we did Wednesday about pre-bunking videos and inoculations of ideas. So, you know, that gives me pause. In his testimony to Congress, though, he said that openness is what he's committed to. YouTube really should be, our commitment to openness works hand in hand with our responsibility to protect our community from harmful content. So cool. I want him to, you know, use that openness bit and tell us how they arrived at content rules around COVIDism, around war, around freedom of speech. So I'm listening.
Yeah,
I think the war part makes sense because I think a lot of people forget that Google is a war contractor. Like, they do tracking and satellite systems for the military, so they are a war contractor.
Yeah,
at the end of the day. So,
well, and also a deep state contractor. I mean, they literally got funding literal funding from the intelligence state. I think it's from the CIA specifically. So, absolutely, these guys have funding and they're in place and they're part of that. They're part of that whole machine. So we'll see what kind of buzzwords and things they start blocking now that she's out.
All right, so now we're seeing all of this propaganda, all right, surrounding the alphabet people. There's a plethora of anti-Sim, you know, which I was going to bring out a lot of these things in this video, but as you can see, we're damn near an hour, almost over an hour, so we'll get to this stuff. They're trying to get, you know, understanding of the Israelites, and they're using COONs, you know, as a means to get an understanding and help their agenda. Check this out. All right. Extremist religious group books rally convention. Now, this is all the way on Yahoo News. So they're watching the Israelites. This is speaking of ISUPK's Passover. An extreme religious group says it has rented the Raleigh Convention Center for its annual Passover celebration. All right, now why is this making the news? Because again, they're getting ready to make a move. All of these things that have been happening over the last 3 years are leading, all right, to them making their move, coming after the woman. Okay, they're being found out. Okay, Isaiah 32:4, the heart of the rash shall understand knowledge, and the tongue of stammerers shall be ready to speak plainly. The vile person shall no more be called liberal, nor the churl said to be bountiful. And that's happened through this word going out. Okay? That's happened through this word going out. They're being found out. There's a shameful spewing on them. So they're tracking and tracing everything. Okay? Let's listen to a little bit. Yeah, the radical Hebrew Israelites. Okay? They're anti-Semitic, anti-white, anti-alphabet. All right? And all of this... misogynistic, xenophobic sect of groups who preach they and only they are the true Israelites of the Bible. All right, ain't that what the small hats preach? Perpetuated an anti-Semitic belief that the so-called JOOs have stolen their identity and birthright, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay, so this is something to keep an eye on. All right, I think that Passover is coming up sometime in April. Sometime in April. It's April 1st now, so sometime in April. I don't know exactly when. All right, but I'm pretty sure that this convention center, all right, is going to catch flack from allowing them to rent it out for their Passover. All right. The Raleigh Convention Center is owned and managed by the city of Raleigh. All right. Oh, today. It's today. Today is their Passover. Shows it's holding private Passover celebration on April 1st. At the same time, the ISUPK says it will be celebrating their Passover at the convention center. So there's something to keep an eye on, see what comes of it. We received the details that they were hosting a Passover observance dinner for families. We treated the event as we would any other booking. After contract review, the details of the event were solved. We contracted for use of our ballroom. We expect that they will adhere to all contract terms. All right. Yeah, and the Southern Poverty Law Center is a hate group. So they're watching everything, all right? And again, there's a lot of things that have been happening, all right? Michigan State shooter was a black man, all right, with a Facebook page filled with Bible verses, okay? You can see where this is all going, all right? This guy, I believe he ran somebody over. Michael Mammon, suspect, 5 facts you need to know. Yep. On Facebook, Smith, who goes by the name Evan Smith, said she is the owner of a bookkeeping tax firm. On Facebook, he described having past ties to both a sect within Rastafarianism and the 12 tribes of Israel, all right, and what he describes as traditional Christian groups. Okay? So, yeah, I don't know if he shot somebody, he ran somebody over. All right, but these are the 5 things, you know. Yeah, authorities accused Van Roy Evan Smith of striking Michael Mahone from behind while he stopped at a red light. Let's see here. Rastafarianism, come on, man. Anyway, this guy who's deemed a terrorist is tied to the Israelites, okay? New bill to combat anti-Semitism will make certain hate crimes third-degree felonies. All right, you can look that up. I'm just going through what I had up. Florida lawmakers target anti-Semitic incidents. In Israel, Florida's governor hailed for making the Sunshine State most pro-Israel in America. Okay, there's a bill called HB 269, another attack on free speech. You can look that up. Okay. Florida lawmakers look to pass measure on hate crimes, increase penalties after anti-Sem incidents. Man charged with attack on Ish man at Montgomery. So a lot is happening, okay? All of these things are happening to rev up what they're getting ready to do. Michigan State shooter who had Bible scriptures on his, Facebook, okay, because the Bible is becoming the point of causing people to lose their mind, which really is coming at us because of our talking points. Okay, remember when we stood up on our feet, the scripture said they were great fear what fell on them what saw them. So they're scared, and this is their response. All of these crises and things are just popping up. Okay, and we believe they're behind a lot of it. Okay, MSU shooter had note about New Jersey schools in his pocket. All right. Yeah, it's just always these notes, these manifestos. Okay. And all of this, man. Anyway. U.S. Jews on alert as white supremacists plan anti-Sem day of hate. Okay. Teacher who assigned anti-Semitic text preaches controversial Hebrew Israelite doctrine. Okay. You can look that up. Henry Benz Jr. He was placed on an administrative leave by Hayward Unified School District. Okay. More than 40 sermons and classes were available on his YouTube channel. All right. As of Friday morning reveals that Benz has been heavily influenced by Black Israelism. Where did that term come from, Vocab Malone? The spiritual movement grounded in an idea that black people are the authentic genealogical descendants of the Israelites. So, okay, how an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory amplified by Ye and Kyrie Irving divides black and Jewish people. So, the list goes on, man. All right, so everything that they're doing, all of this, you know, what they got going on, Again, there's going to be a famine of the word. Let's just end it off on that. Amos 11 or 8 and 11. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord God, that I will bring, all right, a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst of water, nor but a hearing of the words of the Lord. Okay, so the Lord, all right, is going to have it to where this truth is cut off. All right, and everything that we see happening is leading towards that. This is what all of this is for. Okay, anti-SIM, anti-alphabet, you know, really anti-NWO is what it's all about, because they are at the forefront of the NWO. All right, alphabet-ish people. It says, and they shall wander from sea to sea, from the north even to the east, and shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, but it shall not find. But shall not find it. And that's when we're going to be, all right, our value is going to increase at that day. All right, in that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. They're going to be looking for the men of the Lord. Okay, because the scriptures talks about, let's get that. And let's see here. This is the time we're living in. 2nd Esdras 2 and 64. 2 and 24, Salakia. 23, and the trumpet shall give a sound which many, all right, that heareth it, they shall be suddenly afraid. All right, these prophecies coming to pass. The trumpet being blown by the prophets. And at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein, because these prophecies are coming to pass. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. So the Lord is going to have a particular point where the waters ain't going to be flowing. See? For a particular amount of time. Whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee shall see and escape, and shall see my salvation in the end of your world. In the end of whose world? The end of Esau's world. All right, which is why the devil is coming down with great wrath, pursuant to Revelation, the 12th chapter. All of these things are preparing him to come down with great wrath. We'll end it off on that. Revelation 12 and 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. So he's going to persecute the elect. All right, he's going to come after those who have the testimony, which is going to lead to his end, man, which is why he's losing his mind. So hopefully I'll edify on to the next. Shalom.